From the outside, the little shoe repair shop on the corner looked like a place time had forgotten. Its wooden sign hung slightly crooked, the paint peeling away, letters faded by years of rain and sun. People passed by without a glance, except for the few who still believed in fixing things rather than throwing them away. Inside, bent over a worn wooden workbench, sat Daniel Hayes, a man with calloused hands, a hunched back, and a heart too big for the tiny space he worked in. But Daniel wasn't always just a cobbler. There was a time when he had dreams, bright, wild dreams of becoming a designer, of making shoes that would be worn on stages and in ballrooms, shoes that would carry people into the most important moments of their lives. Life, however, had other plans. A car accident took his wife, leaving him a single father to his 7-year-old son, Oliver. Dreams had to be set aside. Bills needed to be paid. Oliver needed a father more than the world needed another shoe designer. And so Daniel repaired shoes for a living, every stitch a quiet prayer that his son would never have to struggle the way he did. Oliver was a bright, gentle boy with an easy smile, but Daniel knew there were things money couldn't buy, like the stability and peace he tried to give him. Still, even in their small apartment, with second-hand furniture and hand-me-down clothes, Oliver never complained. Every evening after school, he would come to the shop, doing his homework in the corner while his father worked. Sometimes he'd fall asleep to the rhythmic tap-tap-tap of the cobbler's hammer. Their life was simple. Hard. But filled with a quiet kind of love. Then one rainy afternoon, everything began to change. The shop bell chimed, and in stepped a man whose presence seemed to demand the heir's attention. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a suit so sharp it could have been cut from glass, Leonard Vance. Daniel didn't recognize him at first, but most of the city knew his name. A billionaire. Owner of luxury shoe brands sold around the world. His face was on magazine covers, his words quoted in business columns. And right now, that face was looking around Daniel's shop with thinly veiled disgust. He placed a pair of scuffed leather loafers on the counter. "These are Italian," he said flatly. "Fix them. Don't ruin them." Daniel picked them up, turning them gently in his hands. "They're beautiful shoes," he said. "The stitching here, handmade?" Leonard smirked. "Of course. Worth more than your entire month's earnings, I imagine." Daniel ignored the sting in the words and told him they'd be ready in 2 days. When Leonard returned, Daniel handed the shoes back, clean, polished, and with new soles stitched so seamlessly they looked factory-made. Leonard examined them, then chuckled, a slow, mocking sound. "Not bad, for a street cobbler. But you'll never understand real craftsmanship. You fix shoes for desperate people who can't afford better. I create shoes that people dream of owning. There's a difference." The words cut deeper than Daniel expected. He had no reply, only watched as Leonard tossed a few bills onto the counter and left without another glance. That night, Daniel sat in his small kitchen long after Oliver had gone to bed. His hands were still, his mind restless. He thought of his late wife, who had once told him, "Your hands don't just fix shoes, Danny. They tell stories." He thought of the sketchbook gathering dust in a drawer. And for the first time in years, he opened it. The days that followed were different. Between customer repairs, Daniel began working on something new, a pair of shoes unlike any he had made before. Handcrafted from rich leather he'd saved for years, with intricate designs inspired by the streets he walked daily, the sunsets Oliver loved to watch from their apartment window, and the resilience of people who chose repair over replacement. They were more than shoes. They were a piece of his soul. But life has a way of testing you when you start to dream again. One evening, as Daniel closed the shop, he found a young woman and a little girl huddled under the awning, drenched from the rain. The woman's eyes were red, her clothes worn. She explained in a trembling voice that she was fleeing from an abusive relationship and had nowhere to go. The little girl clutched a single worn-out shoe in her hand, its sole flapping, the leather torn. Daniel didn't hesitate. He brought them inside, gave them towels, warm tea, and let them stay in the shop's small storage room for the night. Her name was Emily, and her daughter was Grace. Grace was quiet, barely speaking, her eyes holding a fear too old for her young face. Over the next few days, Daniel repaired Grace's shoe for free, made sure they had food, and helped Emily connect with a local shelter that could provide safety and a fresh start. Oliver, with his gentle patience, slowly coaxed Grace into playing simple games. For the first time in weeks, Daniel heard the little girl laugh. It was a fragile sound, but it lit up the shop. Word of Daniel's kindness spread quietly through the neighborhood. Customers came not just for his repairs but because they felt something rare in his shop, human warmth. Then, a month later, fate threw another twist. A charity gala was announced, hosted by none other than Leonard Vance. It would include an auction for custom-made luxury shoes. Emily, now working part-time at a community center, insisted Daniel should attend. She said his shoes, the ones he had been crafting in secret, deserved to be seen. Daniel almost laughed at the idea. A poor cobbler in a billionaire's ballroom? But Emily's encouragement and Oliver's pride pushed him to try. On the night of the gala, Daniel walked into the glittering hall wearing his best shirt and holding the shoebox as if it were something sacred. The room buzzed with chatter, diamonds glittering under chandeliers. Leonard was there, of course, commanding the room. When Daniel approached the display table, a few guests glanced at him with polite confusion. But when the box was opened, the murmurs changed. The shoes were unlike anything there, rich in detail, each stitch telling a story. People leaned in to look closer. Leonard noticed and came over. His eyes widened slightly before he masked it with a smirk. "These are yours?" "From the little corner shop?" he asked. Daniel nodded. "I make shoes for people. Real people. They're not just something to wear, they're something to carry your life in." The auction began. To everyone's surprise, Daniel's shoes drew more bids than some of Leonard's luxury pairs. In the end, they sold for a sum that made Daniel's hands tremble. But more than the money, something had shifted. Leonard, perhaps begrudgingly, extended his hand. "Not bad," he said quietly. "You've got skill." Daniel didn't need his approval anymore. He had seen what kindness could do, how it could change a frightened child's life, how it could bring dignity to a single mother, how it could inspire people to value what's made with love. Months later, Daniel's shop wasn't just a place to repair shoes. It became a community hub, where struggling parents could get shoes for their children, where people found warmth on cold nights, where every pair told a story of resilience. And somewhere in the corner, Oliver still did his homework, looking up every now and then to watch his father work, his hero, the cobbler who proved that you don't have to be a billionaire to create something priceless. Because sometimes, the greatest skill a person can have, is kindness stitched into every seam. Your worth is not measured by wealth or titles, but by the kindness you weave into the lives around you. In a world that throws away too easily, be someone who repairs, with your hands, your heart, and your hope.